talking to him. I mean,
I can switch seats if you want. Testing. Senator Caputo, can you hear us? Barry, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you.
I hear an answer.
Yes, yes.
However, we need,
Can we get sound on the screen by any chance?
yeah,
On there.
Okay.
I've met remotely as a board, so give us a moment.
we had a practice session with Delegate Seipel last time, but I seem to be having. Them. Yeah. Testing sound levels. Can you folks?
Alan McVeigh here.
All right. Delegate Seipel, Senator Seipel, can you hear us?
Yep, I can hear you.
Okay, excellent.
Super. I'm at the far end of the table. Can everyone hear me as well?
And Doran,
Yes.
this is April Robertson. Good morning. Secretary Crouch had a last minute appointment that was unavoidable, and he asked me to fill in as his designee today.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah, for those of you who don't know, I'm the general counsel for the Department of Health and Human Resources. Good morning.
Good morning. Sorry, I can't see your name quite that far away. Doran, have we begun streaming for the public?
Dennis Loudermilk, can you hear us?
Yes.
Okay. Dennis Loudermilk is our technical person who is streaming this to the YouTube.
Okay, so we'll go ahead and begin streaming, and hopefully that is working correctly. I'll go ahead and call the meeting to the Employee Suggestion Award Board to order. I'll ask clerk or one of our members of staff to please call the roll.
Senator Caputo,
Yes, here.
Senator Hamilton, Senator Seipel, I see he's online.
Present.
Okay. Delegate Linville,
Present.
Delegate Seipel,
Present.
Delegate Hanson.
I'm here.
Okay. And we've heard from Ms. Robertson that Secretary Crouch is not available, but she is here by designee. And we have Mr. Dixon from the Office of Technology. Mr. Mary Jane Pickens.
Yes, I'm here.
Okay. We do have a quorum, sir.
Wonderful. A quorum being established, the board will proceed with its business. First item on the agenda is a review of the minutes of our previous meeting. They are in your packets. If any member wishes, we can review those minutes at this time for additions, corrections, all those sorts of things. So does any member wish to have the minutes read? If not, Chair will entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
Yeah, I move the minutes be approved as written.
I'll
Senator
second that.
Senator Seipel moves that the minutes be approved as issued in your packets, seconded by Delegate Seipel. Is there discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, no.
Aye.
The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. I declare the motion adopted and the minutes are approved. Next item on our agenda this morning is old business. And before we go to that, Chair would like to recognize council. I do recognize we have some new members of the board now, and I would just ask council to, prior to us taking action on any of these, just to review sort of the statutory and code of state rules that empower the board's actions and what avenues are available for us to take action.
Yes, sir. The Employee Suggestion Award Board is created by Chapter 5A, Article 1A of the West Virginia Code. That provision continued a previous version of the Employee Suggestion Award Board. It basically set up the membership and provided a means to receive applications for awards for employees who submit suggestions for savings, ways to save the state money in its operations. There's not a lot in the code itself. It basically provides for the membership of the board. It excludes certain employees from making suggestions or at least being considered for an award. And it allows maximum cash award to be granted for cost saving suggestions up to 20% of the savings recognized by the state, or $16,000, whichever is less. And It also empowered the board to set up rules governing its operations and procedures. This was done back in 2009. The board created some procedural rules describing the purposes, objectives, what employees could be considered eligible, and what employees would be considered ineligible for applying for awards. Define the suggestions that might be considered, things that might disqualify a suggestion, and a process of submitting applications, which would then be sent to the appropriate agency described in the award or in the application. At that point, the agency is to review the suggestions, do an analysis, and either implement it or report back to the board. The board then can decide whether this is worthy of an award, and there is some detailed procedural applications, procedural steps in the board's rules.
Very good. So just to summarize, the board has the opportunity to do essentially one of three things. Number one, we have the opportunity to approve, study the, if it has not yet been implemented, to see it be implemented, study what the fiscal impacts, are, and then the basis on which to make an award. We can obviously decline if we so desire, or we can seek additional information if we think that there is a perhaps merit to it, but some things unclear, and then when seeking additional information would postpone full action on a suggestion for approval or denial to a next meeting. Obviously, this is the first meeting that we've had in a little while, and the reality of that has been COVID and a lack of legislative interims for most all of 2020. So I appreciate the board, and I want to, just as chair, say thank you to our staff and to Secretary McVeigh and his staff for all the work that they have done on these. The suggestions are itemized, numbered, made available to all members in advance of these meetings. And staff has put in a very tremendous amount of work and has done a yeoman's job, most especially Doran Burrell. And his work as we went through this process, and he's followed up with agencies. So I'd like to say thank you for that. So now let's go ahead and proceed to old business with review of pending applications for awards or employee suggestions. Council, please explain first.
Yes, sir. We have approximately 28 suggestions that are pending before the board. Many of these are very old due to previous version of the board, in instance of the board was not active for a long time. Mr. Chairman, I have kind of divided up the applications that we have, those that I believe have sufficient information for disposition today, and those that the board may move. The second group would be those that the board may have additional inquiries or may be ready to decide. But I would propose that we proceed first with those that should be ripe for disposition.
All right, very good. I would agree with that. And so if we could, it looks like on the first one that is ripe for disposition is ESAB number 3. That is from Mr. Hetrick, relating to purchase wheel mount laptop stands for DOH field staff. Would council please explain that suggestion?
Mr. Roderick Hetrick had suggested that the DOH obtain these mounts that would fit on a driver's wheel that could mount the laptop, hold a laptop when staff is in the field. Obviously not while they're driving, but his particular issue was that there's currently laptop stands that can swing and cause damage and make it difficult to operate in the vehicle. He suggested these wheel mount stands would be cost effective and it would be simple to put on and release. This was referred to the Division of Highways and Department of Transportation. Their response was that this was not sufficient. They did not see that there would be any cost savings realized, and they felt in some cases this could actually hinder the operation.
Is there discussion from members or questions from council related to this suggestion?
I just have a question. If the agency urges rejection, can we still do what we think is right, or do we have to follow that?
I would ask council to explain the legislative rule governing that.
As long as it's not something that falls within the rules definition of an ineligible suggestion, the board can exercise an independent judgment over suggestions that come before it. There is that's the simplest answer. There may be some procedural issues in some cases, but as long as the agency has reviewed it, they've received their review, the board may proceed as they see fit.
I have a question.
Yes.
Is the focus of the suggestion cost savings or safety, and does it matter to us?
Under the statute, it's savings to the state.
I mean, because it sounds like his concern might have been more towards safety or efficiency of use of the vehicle.
His application, he addressed both safety, well, what he perceived as he was banging his elbow or something like that, and he felt that the other kinds of mounts that were used could swing and cause injury. But yeah, the board's focus is on savings to the state. Can't only make an award out of savings recognized.
It appears from the response from the Division of Highways that it almost sounds like this is a personal preference by the user in the vehicle, and that it wasn't going to be a standard that was adopted by the Division of Highways across the board. So I think it'll be difficult to identify a cost savings and then percentage, if there even is one.
I would note that this was referred to both the DOH and the Department of Administration. The Department of Administration's answers said that this was, they couldn't perceive the scope because they didn't know how many people were out there in the field and so forth.
Further discussion from members or questions related to this suggestion? If not, Chair will
Mr.
entertain-
Chairman, Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I had my hand up. Maybe, I don't know if what you're seeing there.
I apologize there. Senator Caputo, you are recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I've got some concern about this, and I'm new to this board, so I'm trying to understand how everything works. But Mr. Hedrick's suggestion concerns me more in a safety point of view, particularly with the airbag issue. And I think that, if we can do things to enhance safety and reduce injuries, it in turn reduces costs to state, such as workers' comp and emergency room visits and what have you. I think it's a good suggestion. And I don't know how, Mr. Chairman, if you could guide me or council could guide me. I don't want to just shoot this down, so to speak. I'd like to see maybe some further study and maybe some gradual implementation, because if this is an issue, if that device can get into the passenger airbag, I have real concerns about that. So, Mr. Chairman, I look for your leadership here and see if you could guide me through this, because I'm not comfortable just voting to reject this suggestion. Thank you.
So, if I may, I'll recognize that. And I do see that I think Senator Seipel also has his hand raised, so I will make sure that I recognize him. But just in response to your concern there, Senator, it is within the board's power to not take immediate action on this, to postpone it to a future meeting and to seek follow-up response. And Senator, I would invite you also, I would say that you could issue a compound motion on that if you were to offer one, which would state essentially that if perhaps from an insurance perspective, the disposition of the board, right, is the ability to enact suggestions which result in a cost savings. It's difficult perhaps to quantify some of this, but I don't believe the board has reached out to, as a for instance, the Bureau of Risk Insurance Management, something like that, which may be able to give us actuarial data as to that, and if that would be something that the senator would wish to make in a compound motion that we reach out, that certainly, in the opinion of the chair, would be in order.
Mr. Chairman, I would reserve the right to make that motion after I hear some further discussion on this. Senator Seipold, I know, has something to add. So
Certainly. Senator Seipold, you are recognized.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Basically, I was going to say the same thing that Senator Caputo had mentioned, and even though on its face, I don't see where there would be any cost savings per se, but I think that it certainly is a very good idea, is in line with safety measures, and that should be taken into consideration, especially if an individual would feel more comfortable using a device that would hook to the steering wheel and could be removed when driving. But like I say, I'm not sure if that's exactly within the purview of our committee, but I would certainly support his position on that as well. Thank you.
Certainly. I think there is one other hand up, or maybe that's just Senator Seipold and Senator Caputo. Okay, there we go. Is there further discussion prior to accepting motions for any member?
If the issue is reaching out to perhaps Brim, I'm the Brim director also. I mean, we can certainly talk to our actuaries. I don't know. I'm just saying I don't know that they will have a whole lot to add to the discussion, because I don't know if this has ever happened before, So without any data about, whether this really causes, and I totally understand the concerns. I really do. But we're happy to talk to the actuaries if that's the will of the committee.
Certainly.
And I think the related question is how many employees actually use the devices that are potentially dangerous.
Certainly.
I don't know who has that information, but that'd be good to know.
Certainly.
And in reading it, and I think a lot of these issues we need more information, it seems like, but I can understand the concern of a device that is to the right of the driver and an airbag affecting the passenger. But if you put a device on the steering wheel, there's an airbag in the steering wheel. So now I would think you would be impacting the driver. So I don't know that you're gaining by trading off who gets impacted.
Certainly.
I think the device on the steering wheel is something that's removable. If it's my understanding that it would only be there while the individual was using the laptop, and then it would be removed and placed in a secure position. That's my understanding, but I may be wrong about that.
Certainly. Okay, well, so given that, and Chair wants to make sure that I understand, we can, perhaps I'm a little procedurally, I don't want to put the cart before the horse, but if it were the will of the board, obviously Chair can get with staff and ask some of these specific questions of perhaps DOH, how many employees would potentially be, impacted utilizing, these laptops, and then in addition to that, solicit further input perhaps from Brim to see if there's some of these things. And then of course, the one thing that I certainly would remind at least several of our members is that, if council were to determine that it is difficult or impossible to find a cost savings related to this, we also, with different hats, are appropriators and policymakers, wherein we may have the ability to impact that, in another venue. All that being said, Senator Caputo, I think you wish to offer a motion.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I do agree with your last comments there. I'm going to try to craft some type of motion that we continue to look at this issue. I move that we continue to look at this issue. We get input from other state agencies and even look outside state agencies to highway safety experts to see if this issue has ever been addressed and what the resolution was. So I guess, Mr. Chairman, would it be proper to delay action on this proposal to a future date when all that information can be compiled and presented to the board? That's my motion.
Certainly, Senator. I'm going to try to state this, and you tell me if I've got any of it wrong. The senator moves that we postpone action on ESAB-3, which was just discussed, and solicit further response from the Bureau of Risk Insurance Management, any entity which staff could identify potentially a cost savings to the state associated with this, and get a little bit more information from the primarily affected agency being Division of Highways as to the scope of the number of these devices currently in use. So that's a very long compound motion. But Senator, do I have it right?
You have it right, with the exception of looking into an outside highway expert agency to see if there has been hazards related to this type of device.
Without objection, we will consider that as part of my statement there. Is there discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no.
I'll second it if you need.
Oh, sorry, Jefferson. Sorry, everybody. Motion by Senator Caputo, seconded by the delegate, and the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it, and I declare that motion adopted. It appears that the next one that we have on our agenda of applications which appear right for discussion are ESAB-6 by Ms. Laura A. Evans. Council, please explain the suggestion.
Ms. Evans works with the Division of Juvenile Services and has described a process. They're required to fill out certain incident reports. She suggested reformatting these by using various format tools such as line spacing and double-sided printing to reduce the amount of white space used and reduce the use of paper and printing. The agency urges rejection, saying that the incident reports vary. Sometimes there's a lot of white space and sometimes not. In particular, Ms. Evans suggested eliminating the white space that may occur at the end of the report if a page only has a paragraph or something. The director of the agency estimated that it would cost more in terms of work to reformat and condense the reports than they would save in paper.
Understood. Is there a discussion from the members or questions of council? Their discussion. Going once, twice. If not,
Well, I have Mr. Chairman, I do have a question. Maybe more than the issue of printing double-sided and reducing the white space is why are we even using paper? I'm surprised that they don't have a completely digital system. That would make the most sense to me, where the documents can be passed from person to person or agency to agency without printing it out and handing it to a person.
This suggestion was originally presented to the board in 2014 when under the current formulation of the board in 2019, it was again presented to Secretary Sandy, the successor to Secretary Thornton, just to confirm the status. We've not been in contact with the agency since then. At that time, Secretary Sandy did agree with the original conclusion. It's a question of whether the board would like any additional follow-up or just proceed with this.
Sure.
Yeah.
So just real quick, and in the opinion of the chair, I would say that going all digital would perhaps be a separate suggestion. So I would say that the suggestion before the committee is based specifically on what was suggested. Is there further discussion or questions of council?
I guess my question would be, if the agency feels that there is a zero cost savings, then how are we ever going to calculate a 20% or varied range of that?
Further discussion? If not, Chair would entertain a motion relative to the disposition of this suggestion.
Secretary McVeigh, help me out.
Yes, I'm no longer Secretary of Administration. I am Insurance Commissioner again.
Oh, I apologize.
Some of you didn't realize that, but that happened actually last week. Mary Jane, I think you might be able to address that.
Mary Jane, my apologies.
No, that's fine, it's fine. And I'm new to the board, so that's why I'm treading kind of lightly here. I guess I would make a motion to reject it. I mean, I admit I don't really understand exactly why. For many, many years, it was determined that it would cost more to reformat. You know, I mean, perhaps more information from the agency. Otherwise, I think we would just reject it. But I don't understand the agency's response, frankly.
Motion before the committee is to reject. Is there? Do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a second. Motion's been made and seconded to disapprove ESAB-6 by Ms. Laura A. Evans. Is there discussion? Senator Caputo, will you have your hand raised?
No, sir, my hand's not up. I'm just getting ready to vote.
All right. If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. I declare the motion adopted and ESAB-6 is rejected. Next item is ESAB-9 from Mr. Ryan Burns. Council will please explain that suggestion.
Yes, in this case, the applicant suggested that we implement a prize lottery with an award such as Gas for Life to build up the road fund in lieu of fuel taxes, which are not keeping up with need. This relates to an issue that currently the taxes that fund the road maintenance primarily come from taxes on motor vehicle fuels. And as motor vehicles become more efficient, the relative ratio of tax revenue is going down. The agency urges rejection and said that the proposed suggestion would likely generate revenue rather than a cost savings. However, it's also likely to come at a cost to other programs and revenue, including the cost of administering a lottery program. So they were saying that not likely to see a net savings.
Having heard the report and from council, is there discussion on this employee suggestion? Is there discussion? Senator Caputo, I do believe your hand is raised. Is that
It is, Mr. Chairman. I move that we reject it as the agency suggested. I do think it is an idea that can be entertained somewhere down the road by lottery and or highways, but I agree. I've seen a lot of these tickets come and go in my career. So I would move that we reject.
All right, motion is by Senator Caputo to reject. We have a second. So we have a second. Is there discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. Aye. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. I declare the motion adopted, and ESAB-9 is rejected. Council will please explain the next item, ESAB-10.
If I may,
Mr. Chairman, if I could, this is Bill Crouch. I just wanted to tell you I was on. Thank April for standing in for me this morning because I couldn't get on. I had to go to the dentist. You've heard that saying you'd rather have a root canal than go to this meeting. But again, I'm on April. Thank you. I will stay on now and do my part here. So thank you. Sorry for being late.
Mr. Secretary, welcome and thank you for being here. I'll have staff certainly update the roll.
We did, sir, I did note when he came on.
Perfect. And sorry about the root canal. Hopefully this won't be as bad.
If I may, Mr. Chairman, we had some updates between the time that the previous agenda was set. We finally received some reports back from the Division of Transportation. So there are two other, I think there are four in total, but there are two in numerical sequence, ESAB 7 and ESAB 8, both from Julia Vandelinde, which we could take up.
Okay, certainly. ESAB 7 then, Council.
Maybe. I'm sorry, we can take that up now. In number 7, Ms. Vandelinde recommended that the DOH and state agencies recycle all printer cartridges. She believes that these can be redeemed with a vendor for purchase credits. The agency's response from the Department of Transportation said that they would not be in a position to evaluate that, recommended that maybe it be referred to the Department of Administration's Purchasing Division to see what kind of credits and recycling opportunities are available.
All right. I think when I reviewed this particular one, Council, if I may, this is by way of question, I think there was a response that we had received which stated that I think the vendor actually does accept them, but there is not purchase credit for recycling. Am I accurate on that?
I think that there was, I did see that. I didn't see necessarily whether there was purchase credit available. I think that was an open question.
Okay. All right. Is questions of council related to that suggestion? Seeing none, chair will entertain a motion as to the disposition.
I move to reject the proposal.
Mary Jane moves to reject. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Second by Delegate Seifel. Is there discussion? Discussion. Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. I declare the motion adopted and ESAB-7 has been rejected. Council will please explain ESAB-8 from the same applicant.
Yes, in this case, the applicant recommended that the state provide incentives and directives for the janitorial services. As she noticed some procedures where they were wasting things, in particular toilet paper. Apparently, when the janitorial services come in and they see that one of those big rolls of toilet paper is partially used up, they will replace the whole roll to make sure there's always toilet paper available. In response, there were a couple of responses actually, or a couple of the agency DOT responded saying, well, first of all, this is an issue that is probably better addressed by the Association of Rehabilitation Facilities that manages the janitorial services. And potentially, well, that's all I need to say at this point, sir.
Very good, council. Questions of council? Or discussion?
Mr. Chairman, I have a question of council.
Yes, sir.
I probably should ask it on the last one, but it says that this is a question for the Association Rehabilitation Facilities. Do you know if anyone done any follow-up to the division of the Association of Rehabilitation Facilities? Because it just looked like they just punted here, and we really don't have an answer, or if this is something that is a practice in their janitorial service.
There's been no follow-up. I brought this to the attention of the board based on the agency's response. Under the rules, it's up to the board to decide the appropriate agency to direct the application to.
Anything further, Senator Caputo?
No, sir, Mr. Chairman, thank you.
Senator Seifel?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I mean, I understand where this lady's coming from. It aggravates me when janitorial services comes into my office and removes the trash bag when there's one small piece of paper in there and replaces it with a new bag, even though I tell them that I'm going to put more paper in there as the day goes on, just leave it alone. And it's their policy to replace the trash bag, even though there's only one small piece of paper in there. I would much rather them take the extra time and run the vacuum through my office once in a while than to replace a bag every time there's a little piece of paper in there. So it's maybe more of a policy issue with the rehabilitation facilities, how they're trained or directed to conduct themselves. I'm not sure, but I certainly think that there are many efficiencies which could be realized, if they would just do that.
Good. Further discussion? Further discussion? If not, Chair will entertain a motion from any member relative to the disposition.
I'll make a motion to ask the West Virginia Association of Rehabilitation Facilities to weigh in.
All right. Delegate makes a motion. Delegate Hansen makes a motion to seek further input from the Association of Rehabilitation Facilities. Is there a second?
I'll second that, Mr. Chairman.
We'll give Senator Caputo that second. Is there discussion on the motion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, no. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. I declare the motion adopted. Next item is ESAB-10. Council will please explain the suggestion.
This is a suggestion from an employee of the Department of Corrections or Division of Corrections. Says that relates to microwave ovens available for inmates. Apparently, these ovens become non-functional on a fairly frequent basis, and the suggestion is to urge the manufacturer, DOC, to work with the manufacturers on getting these repaired under warranty. The agency's response was that, in fact, this appears to be a case in which one of the correctional facilities is not following the existing procedures of the Division of Corrections. Under that case, this would not be an eligible suggestion under the board's rules, on the basis that suggestions which correct conditions that exist only because established policy and procedures are not being followed. So it appears to be a case in which the DOC should be inquiring further as to why this particular institution isn't complying with their own policy.
Questions of council or discussion on the suggestion? Questions of council? If not, Chair will entertain a motion as to the disposition.
I will move to reject the proposal.
We have a motion to reject. We have a second.
Second.
Second by Delegate Hanson. Is there discussion on the motion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, no. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. I declare the motion adopted and the suggestion rejected. Next item we have, I believe it's ESAB-12. Council, please explain the suggestion.
This particular suggestion refers to registration of ATVs, UTVs, and off-road motorcycles. And Mr. Reynolds urges that the state require registration of all of these vehicles. And he cites several potential benefits as I won't go through all of those, but in addition to the increased revenue that this would generate. The agency, Department of Transportation, urges denial. In part, substantially, because under federal law, these vehicles don't conform to federal safety rules for what constitutes a motor vehicle. And this could create a conflict with federal law. For that reason, they think it's not an eligible suggestion.
Is there discussion on the suggestion or questions from council? Discussion?
Mr. Chairman, I move rejection based on the agency's suggestion.
I was second that.
Senator Caputo moves for rejection. Senator Seipel has seconded. Is there discussion on the motion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed,
Aye.
no. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. I declare the motion adopted and the suggestion therefore rejected. Next item we have on the agenda is ESAB-14. Council, please explain the suggestion.
In this case, this is an older suggestion that's been pending before the board for a while. They're video lottery machines, which for a while previously used acoustic modem, or not acoustic modems, but modems, typical telephone modems, to communicate with a central host. And those would ring through, try one phone number, and if they didn't make a satisfactory connection, they'd try another phone number and another. This ran up long distance charges by using alternate long distance service providers. The agency urged rejection of this because new technologies are in place, and at that time they were phasing out the use of modems and using digital technology. So the agency did not foresee future savings by implementing the suggestion as stated.
Questions to council? If I could, I'll lead off on that one. Use basically a fax technology to run the lottery.
Well, the video lottery machines, if you remember the computer days when you had a telephone modem.
I remember AOL. I got it.
Yeah, it made that horrible screaming sound, but yeah, for a while, that's what they were using.
And the agency does say that we don't do that anymore.
Yeah, well, at the time, yeah, I said this was an old one. They were in the process of switching over to all digital networks.
But either way, switching in the long distance stuff and that
Yeah.
sort of thing would not have, because of the shift in technology, would not have.
Yeah, they don't use modems anymore, so they wouldn't be. Yeah.
Very, very good. Further discussion or questions, council?
I move that we reject the suggestion.
Okay. Delegate Hanson moves rejection. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Second. If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. I declare the motion adopted and the suggestion therefore rejected. Next item, we have ESAB-16. Council, please explain.
In this one, it relates to certain stamps that are required. They're for when fishing and hunting licenses are issued, there are additional stamps or endorsements that are placed depending on the type of activity that the licensee wishes to pursue. Currently, the DNR, when somebody is awarded a lifetime hunting license, the DNR charges an in-state rate as if the licensee was an in-state resident. That's not the case with annual licenses. Basically, this is a suggestion to increase revenue by charging more to out-of-state lifetime licensees. The agency points out that currently West Virginia Code 22B8 requires this, and if we were to implement this suggestion, it would first take an amendment to the statute.
Understood. Are there questions of council or discussion on this suggestion? Hearing none, Chair will entertain a motion relative to the disposition.
I'll make a motion to reject the proposal.
We have a motion to reject. We have a second.
I'll second.
I'll second it.
Motion made and seconded. All those in, or rather, is there discussion on the motion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. I declare the motion adopted and the suggestion therefore rejected. Next item we have is ESAB-17. Council, please explain the suggestion.
This was another suggestion involving the Division of Juvenile Services. The applicant noted that in the juvenile facilities, there are certain bunks that are moved around and or in the process through general wear and tear, these damage the walls within the facilities. And the applicant suggested that bumpers or pads be installed on the walls themselves. The agency urges rejection. They said that they had previously looked into such a solution. They found out that it would be more expensive to install the bumpers than to make the repairs that they ordinarily do as wear and tear. So they just concluded it would not be cost effective.
Is there discussion on this suggestion or questions of council? If not, Chair would entertain their
I have what?
You have a friend there in your background. Looks like in your kitchen. That was interesting.
Oh, my little grandson.
Yeah.
Can you see him in there? I'll introduce him here in a little bit, but maybe we'll get him to move to reject some of these. How's that?
Is there anyone have a motion relative to the disposition?
I'll make a motion to reject.
Senator Caputo moves to reject. Is that seconded by your grandson by any chance? There you go.
Uh-oh.
Oh, look at that.
Say hi, everybody. You guys see my grandson Keon here?
What's his name?
Keon.
Keon.
Say hi. Say, this political stuff bores me. I'm going back to play. As soon as I can find Grandma, I don't know where she ran off to. Oh, here she is.
We have a second. Delegate Hanson seconds. All those in favor, or sorry, is there discussion on the motion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. I declare the motion adopted and the suggestion rejected. Next item we have is ESAB-18. Council, please explain.
This particular item may be of particular interest to Senator Seipholt. In this case, the applicant observed that the janitorial services replace a new plastic bag in every wastebasket, regardless of how much stuff is in there. And so they go through an awful lot of the plastic bags. She says we should implement a practice of just dumping the trash out, but retaining the bag. The agency responded. They noted that this is a problem, but it's apparently a violation of current policy, and that under the rules of the board would say that a suggestion can't. No award can be made in a case where an agency or somebody, a contractor, is violating the agency's existing policy. It's more a matter of getting the policy to be compliant with.
So the government already agrees.
Yes.
All right, got it. Is there questions of council related to this one or discussion, perhaps from Senator Seipholt?
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I was wondering, should we pass this along to the same organization that we were going to send the other suggestion to, that they look at their policy?
Just in reference, Senator, it does appear that that actually is already the policy of the Department of Administration and their response. Perhaps, and I note that we do have an individual here from Department of Administration, so she may be able to respond to you just somewhat. But I think that the board, by nature of having a member of the board from said department, has certainly brought this to the agency's attention at this point. Mary Jane, would you like to address that?
No, I agree with you. I mean, they should not be doing this, and I am happy to follow up once again. Isn't this an old
Yes.
suggestion? It's been around. So, perhaps some time has passed. I don't know, what the timeline was for our response and that sort of thing. I would agree with council that it's probably not an appropriate suggestion for this board, but I think it's always appropriate to follow up and make sure the policies are being followed. And we'll certainly do that just to make sure.
Very good. Further discussion on the suggestion?
Good.
If not, Chair will entertain a motion as to the disposition of the suggestion.
I'll make the motion, Mr. Chairman, to reject with the understanding that the Department of Administration is going to look into this policy.
Senator Caputo urges or motions, tongue-tied. Senator Caputo moves to reject while also urging the Department of Administration to follow up. Do we have a second?
Second.
Yeah, we have a second, Delegate Hansen. Is there discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. You guys appear to have it. The ayes do have it. I declare the motion adopted and the suggestion rejected. Next item on the agenda is ESAB-20. Council, please explain the suggestion.
In this particular case, the applicant noted that it would often take a lot of time to look up acronyms for state agencies, offices, and programs, and that many times was forced to go to Google and other search techniques. Urged that the state create a database of these acronyms. The agency's response was that although it's possible to create such a database, it would require a lot of resources just to keep it up to date and maintain it, and that would outweigh any potential benefit.
Is there discussion or questions, council, relative to this suggestion?
Excuse me, this Bill, what was the number on that one? I'm missing it here.
Number 20, ESAB 20.
Thank
The
you.
name on that is Troyan.
Great, thank you. Yeah, I'll just say DHHR does have a manual of acronyms. Of course, healthcare has its own terminology, but most areas of government have their own terminology. Ours is about 44 pages of just acronyms. And it's actually useful to folks in terms of orientation and bringing them into the department, trying to give them a better understanding of what we're doing. That's really the only purpose, is orientation of new staff, probably.
Seeking recognition.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. And maybe I'll direct this toward council. And if he recalls, maybe last session, maybe 2 sessions ago, it seemed like a bill had circulated through the legislature. I don't recall if it ever passed, which required each agency to have an up-to-date web page for this exact purpose, so that they knew who to contact, contact information of managers or supervisors or secretaries and that sort of thing, and also for pertinent information to the agency. Are you aware, did that bill ever pass, or are the agencies just ignoring us?
I'm aware that we actually get a bill like that frequently. They tend to get amended, and I don't know what the final form of this particular was. A lot of times they're amended to require just the basic, very basic information. So I don't recall what the final form was, Senator.
I'm familiar with the bill. I don't recall there being a requirement for acronyms, but I do think that, it's a good idea for every department, every agency that has a lot of those types of things to have that on their website, because it does certainly help. And I had a question for council as well. Who was the agency that responded to this? Did it go to the Office of Technology, or where did it go?
No, that was it was made by a DOT employee and presented to the DOT.
Well, I would like to make a motion, but also a statement. So I would like to urge or make a motion to reject this. But the statement I want to make is that I think there's some subtleties associated with a lot of these that we're rejecting. And if we could potentially include some of that context in the letters, presumably we write a letter to the person rather than just a form letter, and tell them a little bit more of context about why we're doing it, that might reflect well upon the board.
The board's rules actually require us to state reasons for, not just say, unfortunately, your suggestion was denied, but actually to state some reasons.
And one reason I urge rejection of this is because I don't see any way to quantify the savings.
And for the benefit of the board, as this board is, the board didn't meet for like 5 years, and then we began to get it back moving in late 2019. Had a couple meetings, and then COVID kind of hit and made things more difficult. There was some question as to our rules didn't allow us to hold remote meetings, things of that nature, and we've worked through all that at this point, and with the opinion of council that we are able to do all these things, and so we have done that, and certainly we're working through a little bit of a backlog. When we first got back, we needed to get some updated responses from the agencies and some of those sorts of things. But one of the organizational things that I as chair and staff have done behind the scenes has been to put in place those procedures and board letterhead, all those sorts of things, to be able to directly respond both to agencies if we need additional information or if they've not been responsive, and to correspond with the employees that have made the suggestions, and that both by rule and by practice is exactly what we do. So Deli, thank you for bringing that up. So we do have a motion to reject based on the discussion that we've had. Do we have a second on that? And Senator Caputo, I apologize. It appears you have your hand raised. Senator, I believe you're muted, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I was going to second the motion of Delegate Hanson, but also wanted to just reach out to you. I know you work with the Office of Technology a lot. It seems to be your expertise and much appreciated, by the way. I have trouble with these acronyms too, and I've been around a long time. And, you know, I'm looking at some of this stuff in committee and trying to Google it and figure it out until I finally just have to ask. But look, I think that Mr. Troyan's idea is very noble, quite frankly. I mean, that, you know, the public sees all these acronyms, and you know, I always say that when you're doing a response, when you use the acronym the first time, it should say what it means, and then that individual knows throughout the rest of that correspondence what that acronym means. I don't think we do a good enough job with that, quite frankly. So I think it's a great idea. I don't see a cost savings, as the delegate mentioned, so I will vote for rejection. But I think it's something that the Office of Technology should really take a good hard look at. And I think that maybe you can maybe give them a little nudge to do that, Mr. Chairman. So I'll second the motion and I'll shut up. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you, Senator Caputo. We do have a second from Senator Caputo, and certainly I agree. It's a challenge even when you first come into the legislature, trying to figure out all these various acronyms and divisions and agencies and so on and so forth. And you know, the first acronym we have here is ESAB for Employee Suggestion Board. So we do have a motion to reject by Delegate Hanson and seconded by Senator Caputo. Is there discussion on the motion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, no. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. I declare the motion adopted and the suggestion, though noble, rejected. Next item we have is ESAB 23. Council will please explain the suggestion.
In this case, employee of the regional jail system came up with a solution to prevent inmates manipulating or tampering with the standard locks used not only in his facility, but across throughout the correctional system. He claims that the DOC implemented his idea, and in his own estimate, it may save as much as $400,000 per facility. The agency, in their response, disputed that. They said that yes, they did attempt his fix on several doors, but soon the inmates figured a way around that, and in fact, it made the repairs to the locks and the doors more costly and time-consuming.
Very good. Thank you, Council. Are there questions of Council or discussion on this suggestion? If not, Chair will entertain a motion as to the disposition.
I will make a motion to reject the proposal.
Thank you. Do we have a second? There's motion to reject. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Delegate Hanson. Is there discussion on the motion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, no. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. I declare the motion adopted and the suggestion rejected. Next item we have is ESAB-24. Council, please explain the suggestion.
I don't know how many of the members of the board are aware, but we have a legislative claims commission, which is a fact-finding body that kind of conducts proceedings similar to hearings or trials. Every year we get hundreds of claims. The idea is that people who are injured or have some kind of monetary loss because of some action or neglect by the state can make a claim, and they can be evaluated, and potentially the legislature will appropriate money to reimburse those people. Several hundreds of these claims are based on damage to vehicles caused by potholes. This particular employee suggests that we should seek a set-off and contribution from tire manufacturers believing that a lot of these costs are due to inadequate tire design and suggest that the DOT seek the services of the Attorney General's office to pursue this kind of contribution. The agency does not see a need to pursue it. They thought that this would be costly and time consuming, and that they questioned whether they'd be able to make any kind of recovery.
Is there questions of council? And if I may, I'll lead off on this one. Is this another one which potentially, while it may have merit or may not, this would result potentially in increased revenues, not savings, and therefore may not be one which would.
Well, it would be an offset to expenses that are paid out. So to the extent that the state pays out a whole bunch of these claims every year, this would reduce the overall amount because of a set-off.
I think it would be difficult to determine whether the fewer pothole claims that were made were because of somebody using a different tire.
It wouldn't necessarily be fewer claims. It would be asking pursuing legally, getting the manufacturers to say, look, your defective tire has cost the state this. Your defective designs have resulted in these costs to the states. You need to reimburse the state. So it doesn't reduce the number of claims. It would, if in fact it were legally sound, it could mean some money come back to the state to offset those expenses.
Further discussion or questions of council relative to this suggestion? If not, the chair will entertain a motion as to the disposition.
I move that we reject it.
We have a motion to reject offered by Delegate Hansen. Do we?
I'll second. This bill, I'll second it. Everyone's frozen but me, I think. Or I'm frozen to everyone else.
No, I see you, Bill.
I can hear you too, Bill, but everything else looks frozen.
Yeah, okay.
Well, we can just have a private conversation then, Bill.
Yeah, who you want to talk about?
We can do that before.
We need the IT guy to take care of it. Now Terry seems to be frozen.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm still good.
Your picture's frozen. But I
Yeah,
can
I'll
hear
turn
you.
off our video. Maybe that'll help if we turn off our video. At least let the voice go through.
All right, I think we're back. We took no action while we had difficulties there for a second relative to power and the board. So I'll call it back to order there.
And Mr. Chair, we had a motion on the floor from Delegate Hansen to deny. I don't know if we got a second.
Yeah, we had a motion tonight. It's AB-4 by Delegate Hansen.
Yeah, and I seconded that. So
Okay, okay, motion made by Delegate Hanson, seconded by Secretary Crouch. Is there discussion on the motion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, no. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. I declare the motion adopted and the suggestion rejected. Next item that we have is ESAB-30. Council, please explain the suggestion.
This was an interesting suggestion to, the original basis for it was the amount of time taken by people on smoking breaks. But the essence of the suggestion was to offer people who are successful in quitting smoking extra vacation days, kind of to take up for the time that they would have been enjoying their smoking breaks. Check my notes if I may. This was sent to DMAPS. It possibly could have been brought to the attention of the Division of Personnel. But DMAPS thought that this would result in increased costs and to administer this extra leave time, and that it could also lead to overtime costs.
All right. Questions of council or discussion on this suggestion?
I think this would be a difficult policy to implement because as a non-smoker, then I would turn around and say, I want vacation time to not start smoking. So for that reason, I make a motion to reject.
We have a motion to reject. Do we have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Ms. Pickens. And please forgive me, are you acting secretary? So I gave you, okay. So, all right, acting secretary Pickens. Is there discussion on the motion?
Well, I do have a question, Mr. Chairman. And it might not even really be pertinent, but if a person is a non-smoker, can they not step outside and take a break for a few minutes, whether they smoke or not? Is that prohibited?
Well, depending on how much time it would involve, that person might be required to take leave for that period of time.
Smokers are not.
I mean, there's really not a whole lot of difference between taking a smoke break or taking a bathroom break. And I assume that, you know, if you're making 20 trips to the restroom a day, that could be a problem. But if you're only going 2 times or 3 times a day, then maybe it's not an issue. I don't know. But I would support rejection.
All right, so we have a motion and it has been seconded. Is there further discussion on the motion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. I declare the motion adopted and the suggestion rejected. Next item on the agenda is ESAB-32. Council, please explain the suggestion.
This is a suggestion from a DOT employee who's actually presented a lot of suggestions to the board. In this case, he recommends that when mowing operations are conducted along the roadways, that the inspections be done immediately following the mowing operations. This is inspections of ditches and drains. The rationale or the basis for this is he feels that immediately after mowing is the best time to identify problems and figure out where deficiencies are or any things that need to be repaired or corrected. The agency responds and they say they have a ditch inspection mandatory cycle, but it's on a 3-year basis as opposed to however frequently mowing crews are working. They do, however, expect their mowing crews to report things that they may see. But it's not systematic. It's more, if you see something, say something.
Questions, council, or discussion on this suggestion?
Mr. Chairman.
Cycle?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would say that I think that's a great idea because one of the biggest downfalls of our road maintenance is lack of ditch control and water control on our road surfaces. And a 3-year cycle, I don't think is nearly adequate. And since you already have a crew in the vicinity when they mow, there's normally a lead truck, a follow truck, and the mowing machine. There's no reason why it might take a little longer to inspect than it would be just to mow. But my goodness, if that would prompt repair and correction of drainage problems, I think in the long run, it would save a lot of wear and tear on the road.
Thank you. Thank you, Senator. Is there further discussion relative to this suggestion? Further, if I may, then I'll offer a quick discussion on this suggestion. And I have a question of council on this that, well, I mean, I'll ask council or really any member who may know. Is an inspection, as the DOH would view it, essentially a term of art with certain things that they do there, or is that sort of, so I guess where I'm going with this is if we recommended implementation and study as to whether or not this saves money or does not, because we think it may be a best practice, you know, would we need to qualify what we mean by an inspection if we were to do that, sort of as Senator Seipold mentioned, that they have sort of a lead and a follow, and then someone doing the actual mowing?
I understand your question, sir. I don't know the answer as to whether there are certain specifications. I know the DOH has loads of engineering manuals and procedure manuals, and this 3-year inspection they're talking about may be a very comprehensive thing. I do not know. Certainly the devil's in the details, and we might need to, you know, require them to do at least a minimal examination of every ditch and drain.
Certainly. Senator Seipold, would you yield for a question?
Absolutely.
Senator, would you consider offering a motion? I don't know if it would be in order for me to do so, you know, directly as chair, that essentially would ask for, you know, follow up as to, you know, what goes into their 3-year inspections, and then perhaps at our next meeting, you know, we could take action to mandate implementation of, you know, some sort of an inspection, but to perhaps clearly define, you know, what that entails, and then study that for a potential award for, you know, after 1 year for this employee.
Right. I would, if we're done with the discussion phase, I would move that we reach out to the Division of Highways for further information on their 3-year cycle for ditch inspections and clarification on their procedures at this point, so we can take further action in the future.
Very good. Is there any further discussion? If not, we do have a motion on the floor there from Senator Seipold. For the discussion? If not, do we have a second on the motion offered by Senator Seipold to request a little bit of further information from Highway?
I'll second that.
Okay. Just for fun, we'll make that one seconded by Delegate Seipold. Is there discussion on the motion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. I declare that motion adopted, and we will seek a little bit of further input from Highways related to that. At this time, we're about 5 minutes from our scheduled endpoint for the meeting, and I want to express my appreciation as chair to the members for their time this morning. We think that it may be in order, but I think it may be good to have a motion for this. There's been some discussion relative to council and the chair having a little bit of discretion in determining when for lack of a better term, a agency punts and says, hey, we may not be the correct agency to evaluate the merit of a suggestion. It may be beneficial if a member wished to offer a motion empowering the chair and council or board staff to sort of follow up of our own discretion, just to sort of move these a little bit along further. And so if a member would be willing to offer that at this point, the chair would entertain something along those lines if the board deems it advisable.
I'll make that motion, Mr. Chairman, to give the council and chairman discretion to follow up when they deem necessary.
I'll
I'd
second
second
that.
that.
All right, moved and I think seconded by, was that by Secretary Crouch?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Moved by Senator Caputo, seconded by Secretary Crouch. Is there discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, no. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. I declare that motion adopted with chair's thanks. Ladies and gentlemen, because we are running up against time, Chair will be in contact to schedule another meeting, hopefully within the next 2 weeks or so, since we will be, the vast majority of the board will be up here at the Capitol. I'll have council and staff check with everyone's schedules to make sure this happens. I do appreciate everyone's willingness to work through some of the, first time that we've done this via Teams from a technical standpoint. We appreciate the assistance of staff and council for that. At this time, just due to the time constraints, Chair would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Before you do that, delegate level,
Yes, sir.
just include me on the next invite because I did have some comments on some of the other items that we didn't get to today.
Certainly. Thank you, Mr. Commissioner now.
Right.
All right. Thank you. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
I move we adjourn.
All right. The motion, I don't believe, needs a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, stay. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you all. Dennis, if you're listening, we're finished. He's the one putting this on YouTube.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.